Hi folks, Adam Andrews here. When you while away a Saturday afternoon with a good book, are you wasting your time? When you sneak off into the bathroom to finish that thriller that you're just about done with, should you really be doing something more important? I think it's a good question and worth considering. And in order to answer it, I think you have to ask yourself, why do we read stories in the first place? What are we looking for in that thriller or in that Saturday afternoon read that we can't find anywhere else? I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and I have an answer that I think is worth considering. No matter what we read, whether it's a thriller or a great classic, any work of fiction, we're always looking for a skillful, artistic, evocative description of our own reality. We're looking for somebody to say, this is the world you live in, this is how it works at one level or another, and to say it beautifully in such a way that we go, ah, yes, you're right. You're right about my world. You're right about my people. You're right about my neighbors. You're right about me in some important way. We're looking for a connection between the artist and ourselves, someone more skillful at describing things than we are, saying, here's what you live with on a daily basis. And we want our hearts to respond to that description. And we want that feeling, that sensation of our hearts to go, yes, you're right. I see it. You got it. You figured out who I am and where I live and what I face on a daily basis. There's an important sense, no matter what we read, in which we're looking for a sense of fellowship. That, I think, is what we're really after when we read stories. And the great stories down through history have always provided a sense of fellowship among readers and between readers and authors. A sense that we're all in this together in some important way. This human life that we live is more or less the same wherever you go, in certain aspects, in certain fundamental ways. To be a man in this world looks the same no matter where you find it. And so when we read a thriller, we're looking at that protagonist and maybe subconsciously thinking, ah, yes, that's how I would react in that situation. Or to say, I understand what his motivations are. I get what he's after. And in some way, his experience ameliorates our own condition. His experience gives perspective to what we are facing. Not always consciously, but at a subconscious level. I think that's what draws us back to great stories over and over and over again. It's a desire for fellowship. And I think it's important to realize, or to think about at least, that this desire for fellowship is not an intellectual thing. It's not a mental thing. It's not a technological thing. It's a relational thing. The desire for fellowship is the desire of one human being to relate to another human being. It's a move, as it were, of the heart rather than of the head. To be able to stand with somebody in their trial and tribulation, to stand with somebody in their experience and identify with them in your heart is one of the most powerful human experiences we can have. That's what fellowship is, and that's what a great story helps us to. And I think it does it in a uniquely human way. I think that's one of the reasons that at the end of a great book, someone says, did you like it? And you say, oh, yes, I loved it. And that person says, why? Explain. Why did you like it so much? And sometimes, if we've been really moved by a great story, we can't really answer. I don't know. I couldn't explain to you why I loved it, but there was just some deep connection. Sometimes we have that reaction when we have experienced fellowship with the characters in the story, with the author of the story, with other people who have read the story. Maybe you go after a great story to someone else who's read it and say, wasn't it great? And they say, yes. And maybe you can't explain or define that very well, but what you mean is, he got me. I got him. We get each other because we have experienced this same slice of the human condition in a real and visceral way. Not a connection of the mind necessarily, but a connection of the heart between two people or more, a group of people who have experienced human life at that visceral level. There's a couple different ways to explain why Frodo's quest in The Lord of the Rings is so great. One of them is to make a list of the things he's striving for and the possible political and philosophical implications of them. He is an individual striving against a totalitarian state. He's making a play for human freedom in the face of oppression. And the other one is to identify at a personal level with Frodo and his struggle. Man, I don't think I could do that either. When it came time to cast the ring into the cracks of doom, I might say with Frodo, I choose not to do this thing because the hold that it has on my heart is too great. I'm going to act in my own self-interest because I feel like I can't do anything else. To understand Frodo's quest in the larger context is an act of the mind. To identify with Frodo as he stands at the edge of the cracks of doom and fails to do what he knows in his head is right, that's a move of the heart. That's a quest for fellowship. That's a recognition of fellowship. I wonder if that idea helped Tolkien create the title of his first volume, The Fellowship of the Ring. And I think fellowship is what readers of that great classic are after. And if they read with open hearts, I think it's what they find. The renowned author of young adult fiction, Gary Schmidt, recently said this: "The arts, including literature, of course, give us something to be human with." I thought that was a great phrase. The arts give us something to be human with, implying that there's something about being a human being that can't be fully expressed with technology or with philosophy or with science or with any sort of mental, intellectual pursuit. There's something ineffable, something indescribable about being a human being that the arts get at in a unique way. And I think stories are uniquely powerful in this connection at helping us realize what it is to be human, helping us realize humanity in our own hearts, and helping us act and experience that humanity. So if you're tempted to waste your next Saturday afternoon with a good book, I say go for it. It's not a waste of time like you might think. In fact, I would say that it's closer to a real human experience than anything else you could do, except actually relating to your neighbors, actually relating to your people. And I would say further that it might be as good a tool to help you in that relating process as anything else you could find, because reading a great story puts you in touch with the human part of yourself. So, readers of the world unite. Go grab a great story and have at it. And until we meet again, happy reading.